Good morning, or is it the afternoon? Is it the evening? I'm not too sure. The Australian Grand Prix has just concluded and I'm just gathering my thoughts. In my hands here I have a hard drive, and that was one hell of a hard drive from Mr. Valtteri Bottas. Or is it even Valtteri Bottas? I've taken to calling him Metal Bottas, or Bottas 2.0 as he's been quite commonly purported so far, because he is basically a new person. We've never seen that sweet, unassuming guy from Finland race that well before, I don't think. Like 20 seconds I think the gap was. So props to Bottas for a job bloody well done. So, let's talk Australian Grand Prix. First things first, let's sort my hair out. Needs a trim. And let's also rate the race. As season openers go, it was fairly formulaic Australian Grand Prix. Lots of promise, exciting qualifying, and then very hard to overtake in the race. These new aero rules are very hard to... It's very hard to tell if they work based on Oz, because it's just such a weird track and there's always been problems with overtaking there, so perhaps we'll see a little bit better in Bahrain. But I'm going to rate the race. I'm going to give the race 6 beards. That is 6 beards, no denominator, just 6 beards. Much like Samson, it seems like the extra follicles have done wonders for old VB. Hamilton just didn't seem to have any pace during that race. He was rather hamstrung by some sort of issues with grip. He did pit a lot earlier. I think he was about 10 laps earlier than his teammates, so that possibly conspired against him. Maybe Merc was splitting the strategy to account for safety cars, which are common in Melbourne, but none today. Bit of a yellow flag scenario at the start, caused by a yellow car. Mr. Big Rick Energy in his first race, nightmare home race, does come from the land down under, and I believe that's probably where his spirits are after a pretty shocking weekend for Renault. It seemed like they were going to be the team to sort of take on the mantle of third best after I'm at the bus stop. I mean, Red Bull, it's good to be back at the bus stop, isn't it? If you're a regular viewer, you may know that I spend about half my life here. Yeah, Renault seemed like they were going to take on this third best spot. Absolutely not. In fact, Red Bull, if anything, look like they're even stronger than they were with the Renault engine, which I suppose makes Christian Horner's smugness in the Drive to Survive series all the better. But yeah, looked like Ricciardo just hit a bump or something, physically and metaphorically. So very disappointing start for Ricciardo. Rather nice day out here. Nightmare for Ricciardo. So he lost his front wing hitting some sort of bump, and Kubica, making his mighty F1 return, had a similar fate. I think he hit the back of, was it Carlos Sainz or someone anyway at the start, so he lost his front wing as well. I think he got lapped twice, which isn't all that surprising considering his limitations, both physical and also Williams based. Where's Ferrari's pace gone? They certainly weren't the red hot favourites that they seemed to be in Barcelona. Mercedes just wiped the floor with everyone. I've actually got bored of waiting, so I'm just going to walk to the next bus stop. Yeah, a Mercedes is supposed to just go slower to improve the spectacle, because that's not on their radar. They're there to be the best team possible, and after that race it looks like they still are, so props to them. Going down the field, Red Bull, amazing start to their Honda relationship with the podium, on merit as well. Verstappen getting past Vettel, who seemed to be perhaps having some sort of issue because he was a little bit slow. That's why his teammates seemed to be so close behind. It seemed like Leclerc got told to back off, given that the gap to 6th place was about half a year to Kevin Magnussen. I suppose it is a face-saving exercise for Ferrari. They don't want their number one driver being bested by the teammate in the first attempt. So can kind of understand that, although as a big Charles Leclerc cheerleader, you know, I would have liked to see him in P4, but whatever. But yeah, Verstappen, 3rd. Red Bull Honda, that's Honda's first podium in over a decade. I think Barrichello was the last one when it was actually proper Honda. Good overtaking from Verstappen. Renault didn't seem to have the best of weekends. Hulkenberg managed to pull it up into 7th after a fairly disappointing qualifying, so damage limitation, I suppose. Kimi in 8th. Hulk and Kimi kind of finished where you'd have expected them to, I suppose, so they don't really feature that prominently on my brain. Lance Stroll in 9th place for Racing Point on officially their first race. Obviously we know they've been Force India in the past, so I'm trying to find the plane. There it is. Cameraman I am not. Lance Stroll, yeah, P9. Didn't really expect Stroll to do anything this weekend, and Sergio Perez was well out of the contention for the points, so good going, Stroll. Yeah, 2 points on the board, which I think is not far off what he scored last year. I think he got about 5 points in 2018, so it might not be, he might be in the team based partly on nepotism, but beating his teammate Sergio Perez, that's something to write home about. And last points position for Danny Kvyat, who held off Gasly. Would like to think that the circuit is partly responsible for that, insofar as Gasly was on quicker tyres and much fresher tyres, and Kvyat was still able to hold him at arm's length. So, also in the sister team, which is supposed to be inferior to a team which was on the podium. Something doesn't really add up there. Maybe Gasly had some sort of issue, but weird strategy. He was out for a long time on the mediums, so I guess he just lost too much track position. Same goes for Antonio Giovinazzi, who had a really awful strategy. He's holding up a train of about 4 cars at one point and had literally no grip whatsoever. Ended up way down the order. I think he beat the Williams cars, surprise surprise, and not much else. So I think we'll see a bit more from Antonio in Bahrain. That wasn't really much of a reflection of what he can do. I'm about to wrap up because I'm about to fall asleep, and so is my phone. It's about to lose battery. Oh, this is a well-lit shot, isn't it? Yeah, summarise. Decent start to the season. Bottas 2.0 is well and truly here to stay, and I look forward to seeing more of it. See you in a couple of weeks for Bahrain.